family when I was 26. That was the year I started my PhD at Northwestern while my older brother Marcus finished his residency at Johns Hopkins, and my sister Diana made partner at her Manhattan law firm. I was the youngest of the Chin children, and in my parents' eyes, I would always be the one who stayed in school too long instead of getting a real job. Still a student at 26? Uncle Wei had said at that year's Thanksgiving, shaking his head. When will you earn actual money? I tried to explain that I was also teaching undergraduate courses and working as a research assistant, but Dad had waved his hand dismissively. Junior positions. Nothing permanent. Nothing secure. That was 8 years ago. Now, at 34, I'd published 2 books on higher education policy, advised 3 university presidents on institutional transformation, and spent the last 14 months being quietly groomed for the most significant leadership position in American higher education. But my family still introduced me as Grace, who works at the university. They had no idea I was president-elect of Northwestern University, pending tonight's emergency board vote and public announcement. The emergency had been brewing for 3 days. President Howard Reynolds, who'd led Northwestern for 12 years, had suffered a massive stroke on Tuesday morning during a meeting with donors. He was stable but would need months of rehabilitation. The board had been in crisis mode ever since, and tonight they were making it official. I would step into the role immediately as the university's first woman president under 40, and the first Asian American president in the institution's 173-year history. But first, I had to survive Friday night dinner with my family. Grace is always so quiet about her work, Mom was saying to my cousin Jennifer, who just arrived with her hedge fund manager husband. She's very humble about her little university job. Little was an interesting way to describe Northwestern's $14 billion endowment and 21,000 students, but I just smiled and continued setting the table. My parents' Evanston house was only 2 miles from campus, close enough that I could see the university's lakefront buildings from their dining room window. Close enough that I could have walked to the emergency board meeting scheduled for 8 o'clock tonight. What do you do exactly? Jennifer's husband Brad asked, making conversation while checking his phone. Like administration stuff? Academic affairs mostly, I said, which was technically true. As provost for the past 2 years, a position my family somehow still didn't fully understand, I'd overseen all academic programs, faculty appointments, and educational policy. It was the second highest position in the university, but my family seemed to think I worked in some kind of glorified office management role. So like scheduling classes? Brad asked. Among other responsibilities, I said diplomatically. Marcus arrived next with his wife Olivia, both still in their hospital scrubs from their shifts at Northwestern Memorial. Marcus was a cardiac surgeon now, the pride of the family, the one whose career made sense to everyone. Sorry we're late, Marcus said, kissing Mom's cheek. Emergency surgery ran long. You know how it is. We understand completely, Dad said warmly. Saving lives is important work. I bit back a smile. I'd been in back-to-back crisis meetings for 3 days managing a presidential transition that would affect thousands of students, faculty, and staff, but that was apparently less important than Marcus's surgery schedule. Diana was the last to arrive, sweeping in with her usual Manhattan energy despite the drive from Chicago's Loop. She'd made partner at 31, and our parents had thrown a celebration dinner that lasted 4 hours. When I'd been appointed provost at 32, Mom had said, "That's nice, dear," and asked if the job came with better health insurance. Everyone's here, Mom announced happily. Jennifer and Brad drove all the way from Lake Forest. Diana came straight from an important client meeting. Marcus saved a life today. And Grace is here too, of course. Of course, I echoed quietly. Dinner started with the usual family catch-up. Jennifer talked about their new lake house. Brad discussed his latest investment fund performance. Marcus described a complex cardiac procedure. Diana and Grace. Uncle Wei asked, as if suddenly remembering I existed. Still at the university? Still there, I confirmed. Must be nice having such job security, he said. Academic positions are very stable. Not high-paying but stable. I made $485,000 a year as provost, but I just nodded. It's stable. Grace has always been the practical one, Aunt Linda added. Not as flashy as Marcus or Diana, but steady. There's value in that. She's also very humble, Mom said, patting my hand. She could probably explain what she does, but it's all very technical and administrative. University bureaucracy, you know. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I glanced at it under the table. A text from Elizabeth Morrison, chair of the Board of Trustees. Board convening at 8 p.m. as planned. Press conference at 9 p.m. Are you ready? I typed back quickly, ready. See you at 8. Grace, no phones at dinner, Dad said automatically, even though Brad had been checking his phone constantly and Marcus had answered 2 calls from the hospital. Sorry, I said, putting it away. So what exactly is new in your world, Grace? Diana asked, her tone suggesting she was just being polite. Anything exciting happening at work? A few significant developments, I said carefully. There's been some leadership transition planning. Oh, is someone retiring? Mom asked. Are you getting a new supervisor? Something like that, I said. Will it affect your position? Dad asked, finally showing some interest. You're not being let go, are you? The economy is uncertain right now. I'm not being let go, I assured him. If anything, my responsibilities are expanding. Oh, a promotion? Aunt Linda perked up. That's wonderful. What will your new title be? We're announcing it tonight, actually, I said. Tonight. Marcus looked surprised. They make announcements on Friday nights? When there's a crisis situation, yes, I said. Crisis. Mom's face clouded with worry. What kind of crisis? Is the university in trouble? Grace, is your job secure? The university is fine, I said. President Reynolds had a stroke earlier this week. He's stable but will need extended recovery time. So there's a leadership transition happening. Oh, that's terrible, Diana said. Will they bring in someone from outside? Those transitions are always messy. They're promoting from within, I said quietly. Good, Dad said. At least you won't have to learn a new boss's management style. These academic types can be very particular. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Elizabeth. Media already gathering. This is going to be big. Northwestern's first woman president under 40. First Asian American president. You're making history tonight. I felt my heart rate increase. In 45 minutes, everything would change. So who's the new president? Marcus asked. Anyone you know? I know them fairly well, I said, taking a sip of water. Oh, you've worked with them? Mom asked. That's good. Maybe they'll remember you when it comes time for raises. I imagine they will, I said. Jennifer's phone buzzed and she glanced at it. Oh, breaking news alert about Northwestern. That's your university, right, Grace? That's the one, I said. She read from her phone. Northwestern University Board of Trustees to announce emergency presidential appointment tonight following President Reynolds' stroke. Wow, they're really moving fast. They have to, I explained. The university can't operate without clear leadership. There are donors to manage, faculty to reassure, students to support. A leadership vacuum would be catastrophic. How do you know so much about it? Brad asked. I pay attention to university governance, I said simply. Because it affects your job, Mom said, nodding. That makes sense. You need to know who's in charge. Diana's phone buzzed next. Then Marcus's. Then Dad's. Everyone's getting the same alert, Diana said, reading. They're saying it's a historic appointment. First woman under 40. First Asian American president in Northwestern's history. Good for her, Aunt Linda said. Breaking barriers. Though being that young in such a position must be difficult. People probably don't take her seriously. I'm sure she's qualified, I said quietly. Still, Uncle Wei said, university president at under 40? She must be incredibly accomplished. Probably multiple advanced degrees, years of senior leadership experience, major publications. Probably, I agreed. My phone buzzed again. This time it was a text from Thomas Chin, the Dean of Arts and Sciences. The Faculty Senate just received notification. The whole campus is buzzing. Congratulations, Madam President. Well deserved. Grace, seriously, put the phone away, Dad said more firmly this time. Whatever work emergency you think you have, it can wait until after family dinner. Actually, I said slowly, I should probably explain what's happening. At the university? Mom asked. Honey, we don't need all the administrative details. I'm sure it's very complicated, but I'm the new president, I said simply. The dining room went completely silent. What? Marcus said finally. The board is voting to appoint me as Northwestern's president tonight at 8 o'clock. The public announcement is at 9. Diana laughed. Grace, that's not funny. The breaking news just said. First woman under 40, first Asian American president. I completed. That's me. I'm 34. I've been provost for 2 years. Before that, I was dean of academic affairs. I've been with Northwestern for 8 years in progressively senior leadership roles. Provost. Dad repeated. What is provost? The second highest position in the university, I explained. I oversee all academic programs, faculty hiring and promotion, educational policy, research initiatives, and institutional planning. The provost typically succeeds to the presidency in situations like this. Mom's face had gone pale. You've been. But you never said, we thought you were. Junior staff, I finished gently. I know. I tried to explain over the years, but it seemed easier to just let you think what you wanted to think. Wait, Jennifer said, still reading her phone. It says here the new president published 2 influential books on higher education transformation and has advised multiple university presidents. Is that you? Yes, I said. My first book came out 5 years ago. The second one 2 years ago. They're used in graduate programs across the country. You wrote books. Aunt Linda said faintly. Published books. Academic press publications, I said. Not bestsellers, but influential in higher education policy circles. Brad was scrolling through his phone rapidly. Holy shit. Grace Chin, Northwestern Provost. Your biography is on the university website. It says you have a PhD from Northwestern, you are the youngest dean in university history, you've secured over $200 million in research grants, and you've been instrumental in transforming undergraduate education. That's mostly accurate, I confirmed. Marcus just stared at me. You're a university president. At 34. Pending the board vote, yes. But it's really a formality at this point. They've been preparing me for this transition for over a year. A year. Mom's voice cracked. You've known for a year that you were being considered for president? 14 months, actually. President Reynolds wanted to retire at the end of his current term, and he recommended me as his successor. The board agreed. We were planning for an orderly transition next June, but his stroke accelerated everything. Why didn't you tell us? Dad asked, and for the first time I heard genuine hurt in his voice. I took a breath. Because every time I tried to explain what I actually do, you assumed I was exaggerating or didn't understand my own job. When I became dean at 29, you thought it was a department secretary position. When I became provost at 32, you thought it was some kind of event planning role. It seemed easier to just let you think whatever you wanted to think. That's not fair, Diana said. We would have listened if you'd explained properly. Would you? I asked gently. Because I tried. Multiple times. But Marcus was always the doctor, you were always the lawyer, and I was always just still in school, or working at the university, in some vague administrative capacity. The silence stretched. It's 7:45, I said, checking my watch. I need to leave for campus in 5 minutes. The board meeting is at 8. The press conference is at 9. You're all welcome to watch the live stream if you want. You're leaving, Mom said. But we haven't finished dinner. I have to, I said. I'm about to become the president of a major research university. That's slightly more urgent than pot roast. Grace, Dad said, his voice strange. Are you angry with us? No, I said honestly. I'm not angry. I'm just tired of being invisible. And after tonight, I won't be invisible anymore. So you can either adjust to that reality or you can keep thinking of me as junior staff. But the facts won't change. My phone buzzed insistently. Elizabeth again. Where are you? We need you here for pre-meeting brief. I have to go, I said, standing up. The live stream will be on Northwestern's website at 9 p.m. I'd appreciate your support, but I understand if you need time to process this. I grabbed my coat and bag, heading for the door. Behind me, I heard the family erupting in conversation, everyone talking over each other. Did you know about this? How did we not know? A university president? She's been lying to us. I paused at the door and turned back. They were all still seated at the table, looking shocked and confused and upset. I wasn't lying, I said clearly. I was living my life and building my career. You just weren't paying attention. Then I walked out into the October evening, leaving my family and their assumptions behind. The drive to campus took 8 minutes. I parked in my reserved spot, the one marked Provost that would be changed to President by Monday morning, and walked quickly to the Rebecca Crown Center where the Board of Trustees was gathering. Elizabeth met me at the door. She was 62, a former university president herself, and had been my mentor through this entire transition. "How was family dinner?" she asked, seeing my expression. "Enlightening," I said. "They didn't know. Didn't know you were provost or didn't know you were being appointed president?" "Either. Both. Any of it, really." Elizabeth shook her head. "Academia's loss is their gain, I suppose. Though that's about to change dramatically." The boardroom was filled with the 25 trustees who governed Northwestern. I'd worked with them closely for 2 years as provost, but tonight felt different. Tonight they weren't just my colleagues. They were about to make me their leader. "Thank you all for being here on such short notice," Elizabeth said, calling the meeting to order. "As you know, President Reynolds' medical situation requires us to move forward with our succession plan immediately. We've spent the last 14 months preparing for this transition, and Dr. Grace Chin has proven herself more than capable of leading this institution. She's been exceptional during this crisis," added Robert Martinez, another trustee and major donor. "Calm, strategic, communicative. The faculty trusts her. The students respect her. The staff appreciates her. She's ready." The vote was unanimous. 25 voices saying "aye" to make me the 15th president of Northwestern University. "Congratulations, President Chin," Elizabeth said, shaking my hand formally. "Now let's go tell the world." The press conference room was packed. I could see faculty members I'd worked with for years, students from my undergraduate teaching days, staff who'd helped me navigate university bureaucracy. The media presence was significant. Chronicle of Higher Education, Inside Higher Ed, Chicago Tribune, multiple TV stations. And in the back corner I saw them, my family. All of them. They must have driven over right after I left. "Ladies and gentlemen," Elizabeth began, stepping to the podium. "Thank you for joining us on short notice. As you know, President Reynolds suffered a stroke this week and will require extended recovery time. After careful consideration, the Board of Trustees has voted unanimously to appoint Dr. Grace Chin as Northwestern University's 15th president, effective immediately." The room erupted in applause. I stood, moving to the podium, feeling the weight of the moment. "Thank you, Chair Morrison, and thank you to the board for your trust," I began. "This is not how any of us wanted this transition to happen. President Reynolds has been an extraordinary leader, and our thoughts are with him and his family during his recovery." I looked out at the crowd, finding my family's faces. They looked stunned, overwhelmed, but they were here. "I'm honored and humbled to serve as Northwestern's president," I continued. "As the first woman under 40 and the first Asian American to hold this position, I'm acutely aware of the barriers that have been broken and the responsibility that comes with that. But I'm also aware that leadership isn't about firsts or labels. It's about serving this community, our students, faculty, staff, and alumni, with integrity, vision, and commitment to excellence." I spoke for 10 minutes about my priorities: academic excellence, research innovation, student support, inclusive community building, financial sustainability. I'd been preparing these talking points for months, but they felt different saying them as president rather than provost. The Q&A lasted 30 minutes. Questions about the transition timeline, my relationship with President Reynolds, my vision for the university, my plans for major initiatives. "How does it feel to be the youngest president in Northwestern's history?" a reporter from the Tribune asked. "It feels like enormous responsibility," I said honestly. "But I've spent 8 years preparing for this role, working my way up through progressively senior positions. Age is less relevant than experience, judgment, and commitment. I believe I have all three." "What do you say to critics who might suggest you're too young for this position?" "I'd say judge me by my results," I replied. "By the faculty we recruit, the students we serve, the research we produce, and the impact we have. Leadership isn't about years lived. It's about vision executed. After the press conference, I was immediately surrounded by well-wishers. Faculty colleagues embracing me, students thanking me, staff offering congratulations. It took 20 minutes to work my way through the crowd. My family was waiting by the door. "Grace," Mom said, and I saw tears in her eyes. I had no idea. "I know," I said gently. "All this time," Dad said, shaking his head. "You were doing all this and we thought. You thought I was filing papers and scheduling classes," I finished. "I know." Marcus stepped forward. "I'm sorry," he said simply. "We should have asked more questions. Should have listened better. Should have seen you." "Yes," I agreed. "You should have." Diana was crying openly. "You wrote books. You're a university president. You've been leading one of the country's top universities and we didn't even know." "I tried to tell you," I said. "But it seemed easier to just focus on my work rather than fight to be recognized by my own family." "That's on us," Marcus said. "Not you. That's completely on us." Aunt Linda approached hesitantly. "Grace, honey, I'm so sorry. We dismissed you for years. Made you feel small. And you were out here being extraordinary." "I wasn't trying to be extraordinary," I said. "I was just doing the work I loved and trying to make a difference. The titles came from that, not the other way around." Jennifer and Brad stood awkwardly to the side. "We feel like idiots," Jennifer admitted. "Talking about hedge funds and lake houses when you're running a university." "You didn't know," I said. Though part of me wanted to add, "because you didn't bother to ask." Elizabeth appeared at my elbow. "President Chin, the faculty senate leadership would like a word. And the donor relations team needs to brief you on calls they've been receiving." "I'll be right there," I said. I turned back to my family. "I need to work. This crisis doesn't end just because we've announced the transition. I have weeks of 18-hour days ahead of me. Can we help?" Mom asked. "Is there anything we can do?" "You can tell people you're proud of me," I said quietly. "That would be new." Mom flinched. "Grace, we are proud. We just didn't understand." "You didn't understand because you never asked," I interrupted, years of frustration finally breaking through. "You assumed. You dismissed. You made me feel invisible in my own family while I was being recognized across higher education. So yes, you can be proud now. But it would have been nice to feel seen years ago." "You're right," Dad said, his voice rough. "You're absolutely right. And we're sorry." I looked at my family, really looked at them, and saw genuine remorse. Confusion. But also something new, respect. "I have to go," I said. "But you're welcome to stay on campus, walk around, see where I work. The provost's office, my old office, is in University Hall. There's a plaque outside with my name and accomplishments. You can read what I've actually been doing all these years." I turned to go, then paused. "Mom, Dad, I'm not angry. I'm hurt. There's a difference. And I don't need you to understand everything about higher education governance. But I needed you to respect that what I do matters. That I matter." "You do," Mom said, tears streaming down her face. "Grace, you do matter. You always have. We just failed to show it." "Then start showing it now," I said. "I'm going to be a very public figure from here on out. Northwestern's president is a high-profile position. There will be media coverage, public appearances, speeches, controversies. I need my family's support, not their confusion about what I actually do for a living." "You have it," Marcus said firmly. "Whatever you need." "We're here," Diana added. "Really here. Not just physically present but actually paying attention." I felt something loosen in my chest. "Hey," I said. "Then let's start over. Hi, I'm Grace Chin. I'm the president of Northwestern University. I oversee a $14 billion endowment, 21,000 students, 3,400 faculty members, and 17,000 staff. I published 2 books on higher education transformation. I've been preparing for this role for 14 months, and I'm scared and excited and determined to do it well." Mom laughed through her tears. "Hi, Grace. I'm your mother and I'm incredibly proud of you. And I'm sorry it took becoming university president for me to really see you." We stood there for a moment, something shifting in the family dynamic that had been rigid for so many years. "President Chin?" Elizabeth called. "We really do need you." "Coming," I replied. I hugged my mom quickly, then my dad, then each of my siblings and relatives. Stay as long as you want. Explore campus. There's a nice coffee shop in Norris Center. I'll call you tomorrow. Then I walked away toward Elizabeth and the faculty senate leaders and the donor relations team and the hundreds of responsibilities that came with being a university president. Behind me, I heard Marcus say, "Our little sister is a university president. How did we miss this?" And Diana, "We weren't paying attention. But we're paying attention now." The next 3 hours were a blur of meetings. Faculty concerns about the transition. Donor calls to reassure major supporters. Staff briefings about operational continuity. Media interview requests to manage. Crisis communication plans to finalize. At midnight, I finally returned to my office. Still technically the provost's office, but that would change Monday. Elizabeth had stayed with me through all the meetings, offering guidance and support. "How are you holding up?" she asked. "I'm exhausted," I admitted. "But also exhilarated. This is what I've been preparing for. It's scary and overwhelming, but it's also exactly where I'm supposed to be." "Your family came," she noted. "They did," I said. "Better late than never, I suppose." "They'll need time to adjust," Elizabeth said. "Everyone will. You're young for this position and that makes people uncomfortable. You're a woman, which makes people uncomfortable. You're Asian American, which makes people uncomfortable. You're going to face criticism and doubt." "I know," I said. "But I'm ready. I've earned this. I've prepared for this. And I'm going to be excellent at it." "You will be," Elizabeth agreed. "You already are." My phone buzzed with a text from Mom. "Your father and I walked through campus. It's beautiful. We saw your name on plaques, in directories on office doors. We're reading your books tonight. We should have done this years ago. We love you and we're so very proud." I felt tears prick my eyes for the first time all night. I typed back, "Thank you. That means everything. I love you too." Then I shut down my computer, gathered my things, and headed out into the October night. Campus was quiet now, most students in their dorms or the library. The lights of Evanston glittered around the lake shore. Tomorrow I'd begin my first full day as President Chin. There would be meetings to attend, decisions to make, constituencies to serve, crises to manage. There would be people who doubted me, criticized me, questioned my qualifications. But tonight I was just Grace Chin, 34 years old, who'd worked her entire adult life for this moment. Who'd earned every step of the journey. Who'd finally been seen by the people who mattered most. I walked across campus toward my car, past the buildings where I'd taught classes, conducted research, advised students, shaped policy, and learned to lead. This was my university now. And I was ready to serve it with everything I had. The board meeting had come to order at 8 p.m. sharp, just